You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Hey, welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. It's always wonderful to have you. You guys are the most important, greatest audience in the world. Have I ever told you that? Have I ever just kissed enough ass to tell you that you guys are the greatest? Well, you are. And as always, I get all these people that write me in comments on the show about what a variety of things they learn and ideas and concepts and discussions we have just across the board from all different various walks of life, intelligence. And we bring forth the greatest authors because they've spent tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of hours, maybe a lifetime of hours developing their ideas, and they bring them forth to you. And for a good solid half hour, an hour, you get to learn stuff. And we also make you laugh because I bring the comedy, not the intelligence, but the comedy of the show. So we have another amazing author that's joining us today. But in the meantime, as always, shame and guilt your friends into subscribing to the Chris Voss Show. Have to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. We're trying to be cool and funny and interesting, putting clips of the show on TikTok. I don't know if it'll work or not because I'm old. Those kids don't get me, but I don't know, some of the videos are taking off, so we'll just keep working on it. Check out us over there on the TikTok arena. Today, we have an amazing gentleman on the show. He is the author of his latest book, just came out December 2nd, 2022. Wayne Faulkner joins us on the show today. He's got two books that he's put out. His latest, Setback or Stepping Stone. It's your choice. With all my might, it shall be done. He's joining us on the show today and talking about his newest book. We'll talk about his earlier book too, How to Think and Create Success. So there's going to be a lot of success conversation on the show, and we like that because I don't know, we never interview authors on how to fail. That sounds like a bad idea. No one's going to watch that show. Wayne Faulkner is a personal development coach, educator, author, and content creator. He has spent countless hours researching high achievers and personal development in order to launch a new thought processes, empowering those seeking a greater level of consciousness and success. And he lives in Tennessee. Welcome to the show, Wayne. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I am doing excellent as well, too, my friend. And it's an honor to have you on the show. We love talking about success. Why is success so important?
So success is important for everything that we do in life, because without it, what do we do?
There you go. Well, there's failure, but then you live under a viaduct or down by the river, as the SNL skit was so great. So Wayne, give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs, please.
Okay, I have a brand new website that's under construction, and I'm told it will be ready on Monday, May 29th, and it is thinkcreatesuccess.com.
There you go. It's always good to think. At least that's what I think. So Wayne, what motivated you want to write this latest book?
Wow. Throughout my life, I have seen many challenges, faced many challenges. And as a kid, I did a lot of reading, and I just had a lot of questions about a lot of things. So in the reading and thinking about a lot of things, I started discovering a lot of things by reading and research. So once I did that, I said, wow, maybe I should start putting some of these ideas on paper.
There you go. Well, that's always important because, this is how we learn stuff. We learn stuff through stories and educating ourselves and life experience. I mean, that's a life experience is kind of, how we learn the hard way. So, somebody can share with me how they learned the hard way. Maybe I can skip that because that's, I really don't want to learn the hard way anymore. I'm 55. There's been enough hard ways in the past. So there's a quote to your book that you talk about, setback or stepping stone. What's the concept there that you're presenting, and And what does that mean? I noticed that on the cover of the book, you've got several different things that, barriers that go taller and someone's trying to climb over. Talk to us about what's the meaning behind that.
Well, when we're faced with obstacles in life and challenges, think for a moment. Have you ever faced a challenge, an obstacle, and you declare within yourself, with all my might, it will be done?
There you go. And that's part of the title of your book. With all my might, it shall be done. Where does that quote come from? Is that your quote?
That's a quote from the Bible.
There you go. The Bible. So with all my might, it shall be done. What does that mean? With all my might, it shall be done. Why is that important?
Okay. There is a quote that also says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So this is a single-minded resolution. And you're declaring that with every energy, with every cell of my being, I shall get this done. I will be a success.
So it's the massive commitment that you're giving to your goal, your journey, what you're setting forth to achieve. It's the getting every part of your being and body and mind and spirit to have the confidence and have the moxie and to seek different results and different things to get over those. And so I imagine, per the title of your book, Setback or Stepping Stone, you're angling on, is this a setback for me, or is this really a stepping stone? How should I approach this?
Yes, that's the choice that we all have to make. We all are going to have some setbacks in life. So when you look at those setbacks, you think, says, okay, this is a setback. That's already done. That's a given. All right, how do I look at this? What's the next step? And you start to think, so it's a setback, or is it a stepping stone? Is this something that I can grow from, learn from, and move on with my journey in life?
There you go. And, perception is everything. How what happens to us and how we interpret it and perceive it and utilize it makes all the difference. I mean, we can all be, just crippled and cry in a corner like, oh God, it didn't work out this week, or we can go, hey man, let's suck it up and rock and roll.
Absolutely. It's all about making a choice. And that choice that you make at that point will determine where you go next.
It makes all the difference in the world. So give us some more in-depth teaser out of the book and some of the different things you talk about it inside.
Well, I'll talk about next level consciousness. And it gives the reader an understanding of what consciousness is. Consciousness is an impersonal state of awareness. It is a state of awareness. And when you become aware of consciousness, you begin to have a different perception of things around you, a different perception in life. You become very aware, in tune with your environment and with the world at large.
Yeah, and by being more in tune, you what's that old saying? By focusing on the things you want, you start to kind of draw, or manifest is a strong word. You kind of start to manifest things in your life. You get yourself on that path. You talked about I forget the phrase, but basically a man of two different paths. It's hard to complete those because you're working against yourself, right?
Absolutely. You're pulling yourself in two different directions. Once you center in on who you are and knowing what you are what you think you are. So once you get that established, says, okay, I need to figure out how to navigate from point A to point B. What's my goal? What's my objective? What are my aims now?
Yeah. And in doing so, you're going to, find your goals better, because if you look at everything it's a setback. I was just recently reading The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And, he talks about how what you do, instead of looking at this as a setback, you should look at it as a stepping stone, maybe a learning lesson. Or what are some other ways we can look at stepping stones as a way to change our paradigm and approach?
Well, all setbacks really are temporary. That's the main thing to know. Never apply a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
No.
So when you understand that a setback is just that, it's just a momentary blip on the radar, so to speak. And we need to get a hold of ourselves, and we need to think correctly to move forward.
I mean, that it definitely is. What's that saying? Your mindset or stinking thinking, whatever. There's probably a lot of different variations of that, and but it makes all the difference in if you set a goal. Like a great example of this, I think, is John F. Kennedy's. They call it the moonshot concept or the moonshot ideas, and he set a goal that was just, I think his consultants came to him and said, what should we do that's really great? And he goes, well, why don't we go to the moon? And he goes, how come we've never gone to the moon? And he goes, no one has ever set a goal to do it or demanded it be done. And he says, in his famous speech, I think it was an inauguration or maybe it was later, we're going to the moon and we're going to do it. And everyone's just like, how are we going to do that again? And, it's that moonshot concept where you set a goal and maybe you don't know how you're going to get there, but you're going to find a way. And because you put all of your resources and all of your mind to it, you have ability to achieve it. Steve Jobs did the same thing with the iPhone, where he's like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to put everything into it. And it was crazy how that worked out.
Absolutely. Because when you start out on the pathway of your goals, you're going to have some storm clouds, some hurricane type winds that are going to blow in. Mm-hmm. And the average person would just turn back and just say, no, it's not worth it. I can't do it. I've never done it before. But when you say and declare with all your might, it shall be done, you keep moving forward. You just keep going, regardless of the odds that you're facing. You say, I will get this done. This must happen for me. So you just have a resolution of, I can't be stopped.
There you go. I will not be stopped. I am a force for what I'm trying to achieve. And that's really it, because if you doubt yourself in different ways, it becomes a form of self-sabotage where you're like, well, I'm going to go there, but maybe, it's kind of like, well, I'm going to go on a diet today, but I'm going to eat this eclair first.
Absolutely. Because one thing I always tell people, all negative energy starts with a contradiction of the ego. Yes, you're going to have some negative self-talk in your own head that's going to be working and fighting against you every step of the way. But once you understand what that is, and it's not really you. No, it's not you. Ignore that, but be conscious and aware of what's going on inside your head. It's the ego. The ego does not want to give up its control over the way you think. Once you break free and not let the ego manipulate and control how you think, well, you're in control now.
There you go.
You keep moving forward toward whatever your aim in life is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ego has an interesting way of working where it's kind of like what would you call it? It's kind of like a thermostat where it regulates you, and it kind of, anytime you want to do anything it kind of keeps your comfort zone going. Anytime you want to do something out of it, it's like, hey, whoa, we're all nice and comfy here in the lazy boy recliner here watching TV, man. What's this? You want us to do something different? Wait, you're shaking up the boat, eh?
Absolutely. It's never going to agree with your aims and ambition. It's always going to give a contradictory opinion. If you say, hey, this is going to go great, I'm going to do well. No, you're not. Who are you?
Now,
what do you think you are? You see, that's an ego trying to keep you imbalanced. Only in an environment of, when you are unbalanced, it has an ability to control how you think.
Yeah, it definitely does. And so basically what you're saying is by putting the force of all my nature and commanding myself to do it, saying this is how it's going to get done. There's no fighting and whatever. That's the best way to overcome the ego.
Absolutely. Because the more you let it control you, the more strength it's going to gain. And it will manipulate and control how you think the majority of the time. But only when you, more or less, you train your mind to think in a way, that you're going to have success because you're going to be relentless about it. You are just so determined, you're unstoppable. The ego will say, this guy's not listening to us.
Yeah.
We just forget it. This self-talk, this negative self-talk we're trying to manufacturer in his head is not working now. It used to, but he's of a different mentality now.
Well, that makes sense because, I mean, what you think is, I think it was from the Think and Grow Rich book. What you think is what you are. What you think, what you think is, what happens to you. So, tell us a little bit about your origin story. What got you writing about this stuff, success, et cetera, in your second book, how to think, create success. What's your origin story in your life journey that made you want to start talking about this stuff and learn some of these lessons?
Okay, I was raised by my grandparents, and they were just like angels on earth in my upbringing as a kid. It was just an amazing thing living in their household. They gave me so much love and care and nurturing. And my mom, as a professional, she was an educator and a librarian. And she introduced me to the world of books. And I've been hooked ever since. Yeah, all the books, from a library, once they were old and were going to be discarded, they were given away to the community and to children. Mm-hmm. But the ones that were left over, she brought them to me. And I just had a great, fantastic time exploring the whole world through books. However, in my junior or senior year of college, I was introduced to multi-level marketing.
Oh, yeah.
I was young and immature, and I didn't have a lot of success with it, but the organization was truly a great organization. But the one thing that I really, really appreciate, and I'll never forget what they did for me, they introduced me to different types of books that I had never encountered before, such as Success Cybernetics.
Oh, yeah.
The Richest Man in Babylon. Mm-hmm. Jim Rohn in his books.
Jim Rohn, yeah. What a great motivational leader.
Yeah. Brian Tracy in his books. Dennis Wheaton in his books. Mm-hmm. And Wayne Dyer and Les Brown. Yeah.
Les Brown, yeah.
So once I started reading those types of books, oh my goodness, things that started taking off as far as my consciousness and my ability to think and really start to say, hey, things are not really as they may seem on the surface. Once you start drilling down to get more information, you say, there's a whole different mindset here, a whole different way of thinking. There's a whole different consciousness level that I'm aspiring to get to.
Mm-hmm. And so you go through these trials and tribulations in your life. I mean, were there any things that you had to overcome as you went through your life?
Yeah, I went through a divorce, and I have two great sons, 28 and 31. Very fine young men. I'm very proud of both of them. And through the divorce situation, that was a setback for me for sure. And I didn't have a lot of skills and knowledge about how to deal with that. But through, I guess, hard knocks, I got myself together somehow and made it through. But after that, I promised myself everything that I do not know, I would be on a life journey to discover things that I do not know. So I started researching, and that has led me to this present moment.
That is awesome, man. We learn so much from trials and tribulations in our life. And like I say, people's life journeys and life stories are things that can really help each other. I never really want to talk about my problems. And one day, my dog suffered a seizure and passed away within 30 minutes. And, I thought, we had a few years left, and it was shocking to me. And, a dog is my child. She's been around for about 16 years or 15 years. And I felt a lot of pain. I felt a lot of loss. I felt a lot of hurt. And I'd put down probably half a bottle of vodka to try and go through it. It was just such a shock. And I wrote a very long post on Facebook, just kind of bleeding out all my emotions about it and just the shock and horror of what I was feeling. And I'm a very masculine man, so I'm not usually pouring my feelings out. And I remember sitting there for half an hour going, oh my God, should I press send and share this? It's really some private, emotional stuff that I really don't want to share. But I just felt like, and it was an homage and an honor. It was kind of a way of doing an epitaph. This is what I'm thinking of, or some sort of eulogy to my dog. And I was blind. I was out of my fucking mind with vodka at that point. So I pressed send and I just said, fuck it. It was like almost a suicide note. And I really didn't want to wake up the next morning. I'd hoped to drink enough vodka that I didn't have to wake up the next morning and deal with it. And it was amazing to me how it impacted so many people. I had people write me and go, wow, man, what you exposed and shared with your emotions. I realized I hadn't gotten closure with my father's death or my animals passing or, some other thing. It like helped other people. And I was like, wow, me sharing my pain, my journey, my setbacks helped other people. Wow. And yeah, people were like, hey, we're not alone. Other people have problems too. And sometimes when we're in those states where we have problems, we feel alone, right?
Absolutely. Just to know that someone has had an experience with something that may have happened to you, it's somewhat encouraging. To, like you just mentioned, you're not alone.
You're not alone in the universe.
And it's also amazing that as humans, many of us face some of the exact same trials and tribulations in life.
Yeah.
We're different individuals, but we have the same circumstances that we're facing. So just to hear about somebody else and how they overcame the situation that they dealt with, it is encouraging.
There you go. Before you move to your next book, because I want to talk about that as well, anything more we should tease out about this book?
I would say this book is a book that, once read, you're going to have some thoughts to yourself and say, wow, I've never considered these points. It's going to give you some things to think about beyond what you may have in ordinary conversations with people around you.
There you go. So the next book that you wrote this in August of 22. How to Think and Create Success. Creators are thinkers, and thinkers are creators. Talk to us about what prompted you to write this book. Give us a 30,000 overview, if you would, please.
Well, this book actually started out as an online course. I was designing an online course, and in doing so, at some point, I guess about 2/3 of the way finished with it, I started thinking to myself one day, I says, could this be a book? And I says, well, wow. Although I had intended to write, books, but I hadn't started yet on my first book. And once I looked at the material that I had, I says, let's continue on and turn this into a book. So that's how that book came about. But the content that's in the book is quite interesting, to say the least. Not because I wrote it, because we all think, yes, we do. It's almost like a involuntary thing, like breathing. But how many of us know how to think? That's the question. And in school, we're taught what to think, but we're not taught how to think. So I created a process and a concept, a 4-step concept and process called Think, Create, Meditate, and Journal.
Think. Well, give me those 4 again. Think, create,
meditate, and journal.
Yeah, there you go. And that's brilliant. Because we think about stuff, but thinking about the Kardashians and what they're doing or watching the TV probably isn't the best use of our thinking.
I would agree, because what it boils down to is, what are we paying attention to? What are we spending our time on, and what are we spending our time doing?
There you go. What is our focus, if it were?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
We all are thinking, but the thinking that we're doing, is it conducive for you reaching your success in life?
And that makes a difference, because if you're not thinking about what you want to achieve, you're thinking about stupid stuff, or you're like me late at night flipping through TikTok going, well, that's kind of cool. And you wake up the next day and go, that was a real waste of my time. I could have made better use of it. So you during the book, you distill 22 years as an educator and 17 years as a corporate management in method, concepts, and solution that helps inventors, creators, artists, and designers with a business. So how we think, or how we frame it, or how we design it is really important then.
Absolutely, because I always say that I have a unique vantage point because I've worked in corporate America and also in the field of education.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a diverse background of that nature, it gives you a wide view of things that are going on in society. We have industry, we have corporations, and then we have educations.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two things are different, from a standpoint of career fields, but they are interconnected more so than you think. And knowing how to think, wow, that's going to determine your success in either area.
Definitely. I mean, if you have stinking thinking, I think that's a phrase I've heard, you're not going to do well. But what was interesting to me is the title of your book, Creators Are Thinkers and Thinkers Are Creators. Tell us what that means.
That means when you think, you're actually creating. Thinkers are creators and creators are thinking. Whatever you think about, you're going to create it. For an example, if I were to say to you, anyone, this was an audience of 500 people, try not to think of a pink elephant. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you can't turn your mind off, but you can train your mind how to think where you be successful. And here's another example of that. Let's say, for instance, we're going to use an imaginary character, Mike. Let's say Mike has a very important job interview a week from today, next Thursday. All right. His mind usually will follow two tracks of thinking. Now, one may be filled with anxiety and worry. That ego inside of him is begin to question, are you qualified enough? Do you have the right skill set for the position? Will the interviewer think you are very experienced? Are you able to converse and convince the interviewer that you're a good candidate for the position? All of this negative self-talk, you are creating and thinking an unwanted outcome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What you focus on is what you get then.
Absolutely. You are imagining things that haven't happened and may not happen, but you are attracting those things into your reality based on how you're thinking. And on the other hand, let's say Mike says, okay, I am happy, excitedly, and joyfully anticipating the interview next week. I am qualified. I have a good skill set. I have the right experience. I'm going to be able to present myself professionally. I'm going to be looked at as a viable candidate for the position. Well, you are attracting the outcome that you want into your reality, as opposed to how you're thinking before, attracting the unwanted outcome.
There you go. And that can make all the difference in the world in what you're trying to achieve. Because like you say, what you focus on is what you get. And if you focus on, how you might fail at something, like the example of the diet earlier, or you're like, well, I really want to start a business, but what if I fail? I meet a lot of people that always tell me, they'll be like, hey, I'm going to start a business, Chris, or I'm going to start a podcast, or I'm going to do, whatever the thing is. And I go, okay, go for it. Do it. And then they're like, well, I'm preparing because I want to make sure I don't fail. I'm trying to make sure I do it right. And so I'm making sure everything's perfect before I start. And I'm like, nothing's going to be perfect before you start. It's just the whole nature of starting and moving towards the goal means there's going to be failures. There's no perfect journey, last time I checked. And then I'll meet them like years later. I'll be like, hey, how'd that starting a business work for you there, eh? You must be down the road and being successful by now. And they're like, no, I'm still preparing for making sure things are perfect so I don't fail. And you're like, wow, okay. Yeah, this is never going to happen, right? I got a friend who's trying to write the same book for 14 years. So there you go. So what you focus on is what you're going to get. And if you focus on, it's like that person who walks the high wire. If he spends his time looking down all the time going, I could fall and I'm going to die and it's really risky, you're probably going to have a hard time making it across that wire. Yeah,
the law of probability is going to set in, and more than likely, he is going to fall off that wire for sure. And it's amazing to me. I've seen a pattern over and over. Anytime you take on a new venture, your mind will automatically show you the worst case scenario of a million things that probably could happen.
Yeah. And it's kind of a protection mode, I think, that your mind is probably doing for you, right?
Yeah, and somewhat it is, is protecting you from, I guess, going off on the deep end on a tangent on things that may be destructive for you. But I think it goes too far because we allow it and give it too much control, and we can't separate the negative from the positive.
Yeah.
Because there's so many competing voices going on inside our head. Which one do we believe?
There you go. And if you go down, like you said, two different paths, you're basically fighting yourself, sabotaging yourself. I see a lot of that in people. They'll be like, well, I'm going to go for it, but I'm just kind of not going to fully go for it because, what if it fails? I want a relationship, but I'm not going to trust anyone. There's different things. You're like, well, you have to trust someone in your relationship. I mean, that's kind of how it has to work. I mean, if you don't trust, it's going to be guaranteed to fail. And so people do all these little things that sabotage them, huh?
Absolutely. And that's why I say with all my might, it shall be done. If you take that type of mindset with you, whatever you attempt, you're going to have built in. I'm not thinking about the probabilities of what may fail or what could happen. Yeah, so what? Even if it does, I'm going to work around those things because I'm going forward to my goal of success.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So anything more that we need to tease out about your book, How to Think and Create Success?
I would say read and also reread and read more and do the 4 things I mentioned earlier. You want to think, create, meditate for sure. And then you want to journal. You want to write about all your experience, all your feelings, all your thoughts, your ideas, and even your setbacks. You want to record those in your journal because what's going to happen is as you look back through your journal, you say, okay, I've seen this movie before. I know exactly what to do. I know how to think and navigate my way around this temporary obstacle.
And that is the meditating. Why is the meditating important?
Because when you meditate, that's where you're going to get your ideas. I call it my superpower. Anytime I'm faced with a challenge or I'm seeking new ideas, even for my book writing, when I meditate, that's when I have clarity of vision. The eyes are made for sight, but your mind is made for vision. So when I'm meditating, more or less, in my view, I'm linking up to a higher source that has all knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And I says, look, I need some input and information on whatever I'm working on or whatever the topic is. And therefore, I know where to access it from.
There you go. And the journaling gives you so much insight. Like I've gone back and looked at my old journaling or things I've talked about on Facebook. I kind of use Facebook as a journal. It's interesting. Like, I've seen times where I've said, I'm going to go for this and do it. And then of course, learning lessons, sometimes I forget about some of the mistakes I make and lessons I learned, and having journaling goes back and you're like, oh yeah, I have done that before. Don't do that anymore. You kind of get that whole idea and concept behind it. Anything more we want to tease about your prior book?
And again, just to add to what you just mentioned about journaling, what a wonderful thing to pass on as part of your legacy to another generation. They could review your journal and get incredible ideas and gain awareness about many things that they may have never considered just by reading your journal.
Yeah. And I'm not going to give them I'm not going to give them inheritance. I'm cutting them out of the will. So, I mean, they can have my journal and they can figure out how to make the money that they were going to get through the inheritance. Oh,
absolutely.
I'm just being a shit. So there you go. Well, this has been fun and insightful to have you on the show and give us a deep thinking thing. Give us a roundabout pitch on your books and what you do. And do you do other things? You consult? Do you coach? Do you do that stuff?
Yes.
Personal
development and life coaching. I'm all about that.
Okay.
And that's why I'm reconstructing and rebuilding my website to be able to onboard clients and sessions for life coaching and personal development coaching. So look forward to that at thinkcreatesuccess.com. And by all means, get my books, because I can assure you, you will find interesting information that you probably have not even considered.
There you go. Open your mind. Learn more. I just had somebody on the show that talks about how they read 200 books a year. Bill Gates reads a lot. I read a lot because I have guests on the show. But it activates your brain. It gets you thinking. It opens your mind and expands your space. Thank you very much, Wayne, for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
There you go. Folks, order up the book wherever fine books are sold. Setback or Stepping Stone. It's your choice. With all of my might, it shall be done. Command it, and you'll have a better chance of making it work. To my audience, thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to the big LinkedIn newsletter, the 130,000 group on LinkedIn, and see us over on TikTok. We're posting clips of the video over there, trying to be cool. I don't know. It's a hard thing to do when you're old, to be cool with the kids. Maybe they'll like us and accept us. Videos are starting to do well. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.